So, I'm not gonna lie, this is a very experimental kind of video, and it comes at a time where I really don't know what the hell there is to do. Because, as we had talked about in yesterday's Alex Newhook-Nick Robertson video, I tend to upload my videos at 10 a.m. PST to kick off the show and to get the day rolling, but the problem is, when it comes to 10 a.m. PST on Saturday, February 10th, we've got games involving my favorite three teams, the Vancouver Canucks, the Canadiens, the Red Wings. They are all in action at 10 a.m. PST, so I kind of don't know what to do. We can't not upload any videos, but it is kind of limiting when each of my three favorite squads are all preoccupied with game footage. So, what we're doing is we're talking about a Montreal sort of related topic, but more so focusing on the Carolina Hurricanes. Because when it comes to these two guys that are on their roster, you could very well debate that there is a potential bust conversation that is possible to be had. Now, again, I'm a fan of prospects, I'm a fan of young guys in the NHL, I'm a fan of all players whose names get selected at the NHL Draft because we want to see young, talented individuals, especially those who happen to be good people as well, exhibit success and greatness at the NHL level. Now, the reason we're making this video is because of a Reddit post made on the R Hockey sub by Tony Perkis 100. Take a look at this post. What prospect is inching closer to bust territory? It's an open-ended forum. People can go out there and toss whichever names they wanted to, but I wanted to focus on two names on the Carolina Hurricanes because they kind of relate to my favorite team, the Montreal Canadiens, and because I think this could open a pretty interesting discourse as to the development of both of these guys. So, scrolling down in this Reddit thread, by the way, it will be linked in the description, so if you wanted to see what some of the other users went out there and said, feel free to go out there and do so. But the first comment we're focusing from this thread comes from Cinnamon Shops. They say this, that the word bust may be a little extreme, and I'm still holding out hope, but I'm not confident that Jesperi Kotkaniemi will be any better than a third-line center. He has some great moments and is a good player, but he's annoyingly inconsistent and has been an absolute black hole since November. Then, the reply says a horde of Habs fans are silently nodding with half a pout and half a smile. Give them a full poutine, and then they'll give back a full smile. So, of course, Jesperi Kotkaniemi is the opening conversation that I wanted to have in this video. We've already made quite a few commentaries over the past year, talking about how his explosion of offense at the beginning of the season was noteworthy. We then talked about how his lack of offense as the season went on was also noteworthy, and then we made a few extra videos in between, just kind of saying, hey, this guy's doing this, he's not doing that, and now he's, getting included in the quote-unquote bust conversation. But before we go over onto the other conversation and dive into some of the profiles, let's read some more replies on this Jesperi Kotkaniemi thought as well. I hear that, Creator Wither says. He has those games, like early in the season when he looks like a number 1 or a number 2C. Then it's like his confidence falls off a cliff. Hopefully he can figure it out. He's fun to watch when he's playing well. Another reply goes out there and says, man, there are too many KKs in the league. I thought you were talking about Capo, Kako, or Kirill Kaprizov at first. Okay, that doesn't really add anything to the conversation, but I did think it was funny to include too many KKs. Yeah, not gonna lie, that's kind of true. Here's another thought, though, that actually is relevant to what we're talking about. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is a bust based on his draft position, in my opinion. He's a fine bottom 6 player, but there was a reason Montreal didn't match that contract. He ain't worth the money. Of course, they are talking about the initial offer sheet, which was given to Kotkaniemi signing a $6.1 million contract for 1 year, which eventually saw the Hurricanes add on to it afterwards, extending KK to a $4.8 million year-by-year extension till 2030. Now, the guy has, 18 points in 50 games played, on pace for about 30 points in a full 82-game season. I don't know about you, but especially for a guy playing in the bottom of the lineup and not getting any power play time, $4.8 million seems pretty steep for that kind of production rate. Either way, let's talk about the other guy that is mentioned here within the realm of the Carolina Hurricanes that I also thought was interesting because we have not actually talked about this guy at all ever since he was drafted pretty much. The question, of course, is which prospect is closing in on bust territory. Flyers LaForest goes out there and says probably Ryan Suzuki? I don't know, is he inching or is he already there? I'd also like to hear Pens fans' evaluations of Sam Poulin. A perfect example would be Jay O'Brien, who busted so hard that he did it on draft day. Now, our second conversation is the other Carolina Hurricanes guy, Ryan Suzuki, currently of the Springfield Thunderbirds in the AHL. Now, it takes no genius to go out there and recognize that Ryan Suzuki is the younger brother of Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki, and Nick has had a pretty alright career, all things considered, and this season has been definitely a step in the right direction in terms of his own line mates and his personal progression. But Ryan Suzuki is a 22-year-old center, 6'1", left-handed guy signed to the end of this season on his ELC, and he was taken 28th overall by the Hurricanes in the 2019 draft. Now, this season, he's got 10 points in 24 games played with the AHL Springfield Thunderbirds. This is the 4th straight season he's had in the AHL, and it's quite interesting because his production this year is lower than it was last year. Now, I'm not too educated on the contextual circumstances of AHL year-by-year progression, so whether or not the Chicago Wolves or the Springfield Thunderbirds are that much better or worse than each other, which may impact the standings of these points, I'm not really all too sure how that's going down. But based off of just the pure hard numbers, this guy was a top OHL player, he was taken in the first round in 2019, and he's unfortunately not been able to translate that production and growth into the AHL in the ways you would hope to expect a first-round caliber prospect to be able to do. Let's go out there and read some replies in regards to the Ryan Suzuki conversation. Here's one from Nilsy16, a Carolina Hurricanes fan. Ryan Suzuki got cursed by having several injuries, including a severe eye injury after he got drafted. But yeah, I don't think Suzuki is going to make it full-time in the Canes organization, especially since Ponomarev got called up to the NHL before he did. Propagand David goes out there and replies, it's sort of weird that Ryan's career couldn't get off the ground due to injuries, while his brother, knock on wood, is currently number 3 on the active Ironman list. And so with this conversation in mind, I also wanted to talk about Ryan Suzuki's potential to bust. Of course, when you compare Suzuki to Kotkaniemi, they may not have the same circumstances. One of these guys was an absolute peak of the crop, top-tier pick. The other one was taken towards the end of the first round. One of these guys was an offer-sheeted guy who was very highly touted for his performance in the Stanley Cup playoff run in 2021, and a player who had so much fan love behind him because Canadiens fans wanted to see him be better than Zadina. But as for Ryan Suzuki, I mean, he was taken almost as an afterthought at the end of that 2019 draft. Even if you go over to this spot in 2019, you could see that there were a lot of other guys that had NHL potential and immediate success afterwards. I mean, right after Ryan Suzuki, you had John Beecher, Ryan Johnson, Shane Pinto, Kaliev, all players who have played significant NHL time. And going even further down, I mean, Pyotr Kochetkov, the goaltender, you've got Jackson Lacombe in Anaheim, Nils Höglander with the Vancouver Canucks. There certainly are guys who were taken after Ryan Suzuki who have proven to be quality NHLers at the moment, and because Suzuki hasn't really been producing much more this year in the AHL compared to past years, there's a conversation to be had as to whether or not he's busting as well. Maybe not to the same magnitude as Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I mean, KK is already an NHL player, and I don't think he's going to get sent down anytime soon. But if you compare the contracts and you add those into the equation, then hey, Jesperi Kotkaniemi does not seem like one of the more valuable guys you'd want to have on your team. At least that's just how the optics look. So if you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan or a Montreal Canadiens fan, I don't know, you may be watching this video after the Canadiens play off against the Dallas Stars, or maybe you're watching during the intermission or something like that. You just want to get your fix on former Canadiens news and maybe other players who are sort of related to the Canadiens because one of them happens to be the brother of the captain of the Habs. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Jesperi Kotkaniemi's potential to bust, as well as Ryan Suzuki's chances. We don't ever talk about Ryan on the channel, mostly because he hasn't really been doing anything to put him in the news, but seeing that he is the younger brother of Nick and there is some sort of a connection with Montreal and everything, it would be interesting to bring this up alongside a KK because, hey, Habs, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these two guys. Do you think they're going to bust? Do you think they still have legit NHL potential? I'll conclude this video by saying, hey, Kotkaniemi is 23 years old, Ryan Suzuki is 22 years old. Players who have been worse at the same age have gotten better and become NHL players in the past. So if you wanted to dismiss them 100%, I don't know if that's the right move to go out there and do, but for right now you could very well have the conversation and validate it even slightly. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these two guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.